So that brings me to my three words for August, which are infinite, um, creative, and opportunities. What are your three
Mm.
words? Yeah.
Refine, remember, and grace.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cosmic Hardest. I hope you've been enjoying words. We just welcomed Mercury in before we started recording because we know that when we don't welcome Mercury in, this ends up becoming pretty interesting. But I hope you've been enjoying these monthly overviews. Like, as you know, it's the one thing that's been really consistent so far, and it's something that really helps us. So I hope it really helps you too. I think it's just a nice way to get a feel and get an idea of what the month is going to look like and just kind of reflect on what last month felt like. So we have Thea again, as always. Hi, Thea. Thank you for joining us again. And
Wow.
to start, would you like to share with us three words for July?
Oh gosh. My personal July was reconciliation, um, remembering, and rest. There was a lot
Mm,
of rest from there's a lot of ours. Um, yeah, July was a lot. We're recording this, it's the last day of July, and I feel like July was a lot. It was a slow burn. Um, but it was heavy and it was a lot. How is July for you? I was in the province half of July, so
yeah. Oh my gosh. I think it's fitting that you say it was a slow burn considering all the retrogrades that we had stationing in July.
yeah.
I also feel like July was restful. I think rest is a big word there.
Hmm.
Not necessarily restful, but rest. I feel like
Hmm.
there's a difference.
Yeah.
Um, and then I feel like July was, for me, it was fast. Like I get that it was a slow burn, but also like the energy was like pretty
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
quickly coming at us.
yeah. I
And I
get you.
feel like I don't know why I want to say dynamic.
Mm.
Um, but I kind of feel like August will be dynamic as well. But let's see, we'll get into August in a second. But I just want to note that as July ended, we had Chiron stationing retrograde, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Which is one of the last retrogrades that we experienced this month. So going into August, we have almost everything retrograde,
Hmm.
with the exception of Venus and Mars and anything else not retrograde. I feel like
Jupiter.
everything. Jupiter is not retrograde.
Uranus,
Uranus
not
is
yet.
not retrograde yet.
Hmm.
Okay, so we still have quite a bit that's not retrograde, but we have a lot that's retrograding. And if you've listened to our previous episodes, you know that there's nothing wrong with a retrograde. It's just taking the energy inward and maybe slowing down the energy a little bit to give us a chance to get an idea of what's really going on, what's really been going on beyond the surface. And I think that retrograde seasons are actually such gifts because without them, I think we'd just be like so in and moving forward all the time that we'll be so susceptible to burnout, like so much more than we already are used to. July also brought so much crazy news.
Mm.
Um, those social media feeds have been not the best place to be.
No.
And I'm not saying this to turn a blind eye because, of course, we see it, but I think we can also see it when we're sitting with our eyes closed and just feeling. We can feel it. Like the energies are pretty wild. And
Yeah.
I think when we subject ourselves to seeing this over and over and over again, it kind of puts us in a place where we feel helpless. And as people that are trying to heal the world and heal
Mm.
ourselves, I feel
Hmm.
like it's not necessarily the best place to be feeling helpless, because then how do we help anyone? How do we help ourselves when we're
Mm.
feeling this helplessness? Because it's nothing that we don't know already. right? It's everything that we already know, but it's just getting more graphic. It's just getting louder. Maybe this is what the world needs to wake
Wake
up a
up.
bit more.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, I want to remind you, if you're on your feed and if you're starting to feel hopeless, please delete social media off your phone. Like, you
Mhm.
don't need to be feeling this 24/7. Back in the day when social media didn't exist, we didn't know what was going on around the world. We felt it in our bodies, but we didn't see like all these graphic things. And, for me personally, with a baby in my belly, I'm being so intentional about what I'm taking in, how much of this I'm taking in, because I mean, emotions run through, right? And just seeing like all these moms that are suffering,
Yeah.
pregnant women that are suffering, babies that are suffering, like
Yeah.
it's really easy to internalize it.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm just giving myself advice as I'm giving you guys advice, but take what feels good, leave what doesn't. But I feel like August is a great month to just return back to our own hearts and to kind of gauge where we are instead of being so focused about what's going on outside, everywhere outside.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know. Do
I
you have
love that
anything to
though.
say before we go into August?
I really love that. I love what you said about practicing discernment. I mean, we do have the nodes in Virgo and Pisces. So, this is the healing axis. This is the axis of understanding your boundaries, being so intentional and discerning about how you're engaging with your humanity and humanity in general. And like you said, it's not my personal experiences. I have had those bouts of hopelessness and intense grief. I feel it in my body. I have a lot of Neptune. I have a loud Neptune, so I have big Pisces energy in my chart. So as a quote unquote empath and a space holder, it is challenging to keep your heart open without falling into compassion fatigue or empathy fatigue. And so this is why we, like Karina and I, this is why it's so important for us when we share these things on a monthly basis. We share it with a practical tip or an embodiment tip because we know based on the astrology that it's just going to get wilder. And in we want to be so compassionate and kind where when we say be discerning and shut off and just create some boundaries for yourself because honestly, our nervous system is just not equipped to handle global news because we already feel it in our bodies,
On
right?
the daily, not even on the daily, like maybe
Our,
hourly.
yeah. And it is necessary the information, the amount of information. I mean, Uranus is in Gemini, Pluto is in Aquarius. This is really the age of information, and information travels fast. It's part of the evolution of our world. We're not saying turn a blind eye. The invitation is how might you use your feelings and emotions and all these things that are coming up and what's steering in you, how might you use it productively? And if it's not becoming productive because it's too much feeling and you're feeling hopelessness and you're feeling dread, acknowledge it, invitation to acknowledge it, and then feel it as a sensation and just notice what stories you're actually attaching in this sensation so that you can step away from it. You're parting the clouds instead of allowing the clouds to um, pour over you, make you wet, tsunami, earthquake. I mean, these are actual global events that are happening, but these are also energetic events that we are experiencing because it's part of our evolutionary journey. So just putting that out there, um, it is it is necessary that we keep our hearts open, but it's so essential that we remain discerning and create productive boundaries so that we're not just a pile of goo. And this is me talking to myself too.
I mean, it's hard, right? It's hard
Yeah.
because we're humans and we
Yeah.
care. Of course we care. And
Yeah.
of course we want to help everyone we can in every
Yep.
way that we can, but at
Yep.
the same time, there's only so much that we can do, and I know that sounds a bit uh like I'm resigned from it, but I mean, when you have like huge governments of big countries in the world playing into everything that's going on, when you have the powers that be putting all of their money and all of their attention and all of their everything into something, um, there really is only so much we can do, and we can do what we can do, but I think it's a lesson in life, right? There's only so much we can do. There's so much we can control until we just really have to surrender and realize like we're not God and we can't play God. Um, and I don't know, this is, I guess, a lesson coming in with like Leo season because Leo is, the king, and prideful and wants to do everything and is helpful and is generous. But at the same time, it's like, how much of that generosity is because we feel responsible for it? And I think it's just, again, an invitation to soften towards ourselves first. And I think in softening towards ourselves, we'll be able to soften towards everything else. I'm just thinking about, I don't want to get political and we'll get into August in 1 second, but I'm just thinking about how a few months ago when I went down this whole rabbit hole of Palestine and Israel and the
Mm.
United States and Trump's whole story behind it all,
Mm.
it was just like the blinders were lifted with what actually is going on here.
Mhm.
And that's not to say we can't help, because that's the only thing that can kind of happen at this point. Like people help people from here helping people from there. Um, because once the government gets involved, it gets a little messed up again. But I just think there's just so much more than we're being told. There's just so much more than we're being shown. And it's just so important to, again, just come back to discernment and just to take care of our own hearts. I mean, Leo season. So going into the 1st of August, why we keep bringing in our hearts is Leo rules the heart again. And on the 1st of August, Friday, first week of August, right? That's the 1st to the 3rd. We have Sun conjunct Mercury, which is a Mercury cazimi, while Mercury is retrograde at 9 degrees Leo, getting our minds and our hearts and our ego and our leadership all on the right alignment. And so if we've been listening to everything that we've been saying for the last like 5, 10, 15 minutes, and it's not sitting well, this is an invitation for you today to create a story that sits well for you. Create a story that works for you. I don't think we're going to gain anything by living in a reality that we're not creating in our own minds. Because then we're just buying into a freaking performance, Leo. So I think this is a great day to come back to our hearts and kind of look like what really is happening. What are the values that we're still holding on to? What are the ways that we can be compassionate and generous and help? But also, what are the ways that we can continue to create, continue to tap into this creative force within us? This is all coming up as well because I just restarted The Artist's Way. I bought it like a maybe 6, 7 months ago, but I just got the call as Mercury stationed retrograde to actually get on the journey. And so much of it, like so much of what I've read so far, is talking about how we have the energy of the creator of the whole world inside of us. When you think about it that way, it's like, whoa, we actually are capable of so much. And I think when we keep ourselves in the same mind loop, we forget that. We forget how much we're capable of. We forget how creative we are. We forget all the possibilities that we can bring to the world, all the unique things that we can bring to the world, all that we can bring to the world for the world to be happier. Because there is a lot of doom and gloom, and we can feed into the doom and gloom, or we can bring a different perspective. Something I've also been thinking about is, clearly I have a lot to say. I didn't realize I had so much to say.
Go
But
for it.
something I've also been thinking about is like, like resharing these posts
Mm-hmm.
on my story. And it's like, okay, I've seen 5 different stories of the same thing. Um, should I restory this? Or how can I alchemize? How
Mm-hmm.
can I turn it into something different? How
Mm-hmm.
can I maybe turn it into art, or how can I share art about it instead of perpetuating the
The story.
story? And it's such a like internal battle because it's like, yes, I want to share, yes, I want the world to know, but at the same time, like, if I've seen it 5 times, they've probably seen it 5 times. Is it
Mm-hmm.
really that important to like drill it in that deep? Maybe yes, but at the same time, like, is there something else I can create from it to
Mm-hmm.
make the story a little, not even better, because there's no sugar coating this, but to make the story a bit different? I don't know. What do you have to say about this first week and about this Kazemi?
I actually love to echo everything that you said piece by piece and just give um an esoteric spiritual perspective, I guess. I really want to bring in the shifting of tides. Everything that's going on in on that side of the world. I just want to bring in the truth and the fact that this was the Fertile Crescent. This was the birthplace of civilization as we know it. And civilization based on his story, like a particular perspective and story that, as Karina said, veils have been lifted, blinders have been taken off. We are seeing it for what it is. We are seeing the story for how the story was created, how it was perpetuated, and now we're learning to say enough. And I think it's amazing and magical how these things aren't happening in a vacuum. Mars is about to enter Libra. And when we talk about Libra balance and harmony, it is not in the absence of chaos. It presupposes that there is chaos, and it's just that life is in a perpetual state of trying to find equilibrium. And so the balance of power used to be on that side of the world as the world and civilization was being born in the Fertile Crescent. And now we're seeing that area of the world just red and tainted. And my heart is crying. My heart is breaking. Don't get me wrong for everything that is happening there. But it's so beautiful how you said, Karina, that we are just really in the period of time where we're supposed to be creating new myths, new stories, creatively using the tension as a means of revealing what the tension is actually trying to teach us, and choose a different narrative, choose a different way, choose a different creative path to solve the tension, or at least soften into the tension. And I'm saying that because as we enter the month, yes, we have Mercury Kazimi, so that's a lot of clarity coming into the heart, everything that Karina said, but also on the same day, we have Venus squaring Saturn and then Neptune. And so, yes, there is clarity, but there's squares, and squares are dynamic aspects that um, they kind of activate a sense of emotional tension. And with Venus, that's entering Cancer. So, Venus in Cancer, that's our values around emotional security, safety, nourishment, home, in a creative tension with structure, um, stories and identities around those structures. Neptune's illusions, dreams, visions, creativity. There's there's that all the dynamic energy, and indeed the invitation is how might we creatively use this tension to alchemize and have something that inspires, something that holds more compassion and open-hearted bravery in alignment with the values that we have now as a society. So collectively and individually, we're starting a month with a literal earthquake, and hearts again going out to the parts of the world that are going through the calamity and earth devastations. But these shakeups happening outside are also shakeups that are happening inside of us. And I feel like a practical tip. I mean, we're also entering the month with Chiron gestation in retrograde. So I feel like there's a kind of voice of the flame. Like, how might we give voice to that roaring flame inside of us so that it's not imploding or exploding in an unproductive way? And flame can be, a representation of ego, a representation of pride, or toxic productivity or masculinity. Like, the energy of flame is it's yang, it's passion, it's drive, it's will, it's intense movement. But how might we give voice to that in a creative and loving, aligned, authentic way? And I would just like to mirror Karina when she said, like, yes, indeed, you've heard it 5 times, but your way, your way is only your way, and your magic is your magic. So even though we've seen those things 10 times, we haven't seen your version. And your version, it's only that voice can only come from you and the perspective that you're able to share. So please still do. I mean, you're still looking for a way for your expression, which is an invitation of the time, right? Like, how might you let your truth burn clear without scorching, but like in a sanctified way where it's embodying like your wholeness instead of your fragmentation. I mean, these are a lot of big words, but I feel like July was a period of time where we were really made aware how fragmented we are as a society, how fragmented we are as a being, as a human being. So this August, I mean, we're still in retrograde season, but it's I'm thinking of this concept in alchemy, solve et coagula. You need to dissolve first so that you can coagulate. And for you to be able to coagulate in your transmuted alchemized way, you need to first disintegrate, right? Disintegrate to reintegrate. So I feel like we're in the middle of that disintegration, with that square opening the August one, like the first week. Um, And then mid-August, we're going to have such a beautiful, benefic, magical, supportive energy. I mean, we're gonna dive deeper into that as the weeks progress. But like, notice and presence how disintegrated you've been. And if you can just be so gentle and kind with yourself, like just open your heart and trust that there is nothing wrong with you. You're disintegrated doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that there are parts that old systems built or old systems have actually perpetuated, and there are parts of you that enrolled in this old system, and they're fractured and fragmented now because you are literally here to build something new from it, something we've never seen before, something creative, magical, beautiful, compassionate, um, mystical, spiritual, like all of these Pisces things. So you're not broken, you're just reintegrating. So please be so gentle with yourself. Soul tip, I feel like um if you can write, like carve out some time to journal all the ways that you feel fragmented, and then how those truths or misunderstandings have been a byproduct of people outside of you. And then on another piece of paper, now how might you put these fragmented parts back together based on the truth that's actually more aligned with your values now? And we're not supposed to be doing anything about that yet. We're supposed to be holding that with so much compassion and understanding so that its hold on us slowly softens and dissolves. And it's gonna take a ton of time. So just practice titration and just being gentle with ourselves this first 3 days. Because the first week is just 3 days. Yeah, that's what I have.
I love it. I also love that you brought in equilibrium. Something it brought to mind was I was going through the major arcana of the tarot with a friend the other day, and what I was noticing, what we were noticing is how not every other card, but every four or so cards is the reminder to come back to equilibrium. It's a reminder to come
Mm.
back to balance. It's a reminder to come back to moderation. Like you have the Lover's card, which is about balance. You have Temperance, which is about moderation. You have Justice, which is about balance. So it's like it just keeps reinstating this whole idea of balance. And I think that's what we're all here to find, right? I mean, we live in a dual world. It's even louder now that Uranus has finally entered Gemini. We're seeing the dualities so loud, surprisingly, even louder than we were when Jupiter was in Gemini. Um,
That was nothing.
yeah, that was actually
Oh
soft,
no,
and we
not
thought
nothing.
that
Yeah,
that was loud.
loud.
And now here we are, and it's actually loud, and we're like, oh my God, we had no idea. So yeah, I love this invitation for equilibrium, and I think this invitation just gets louder as we enter the second week of August with Mars entering Libra on the 7th. And then on the 9th, we have the full moon in Aquarius. That is at 16 degrees 59 minutes. If you're in Manila, that's at 3:54 p.m.
Happy
Um,
birthday!
Thank you. And on the same day, we have Mars trine Uranus and Mars opposite Saturn. So when I was looking at the chart, okay, wait, before we get into the full moon, let's talk about let's talk about Mars entering Libra and how that is opposing Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which are very recently retrograde. And yeah, I think we can just go deeper in. When I was looking at the full moon chart, I was seeing this kite, and I'm sure you can shine a deeper light into what a kite is and how we can really maximize the energy of the kite. Where do we focus on when we're looking at a kite? But something that's impossible to ignore is how all this is happening in the beginning degrees of every sign. And so these are all energies that, like you're saying, like it's fine if you're fragmented, it's fine if you're disintegrated, because we are at the frickin' beginning again. We're at the precipice. We have no idea how it looks. We have no idea how it's going to unfold, but how we are right now is what's going to dictate how it unfolds. So how can we be a little bit more aware, Thea? What do you think? But also, I want to say, I just want to bring in the energies of Libra. If anyone's listening and they're like, okay, Mars moving into Libra, what does that mean? So as we always share, Mars is action. You know, it's assertive, it's power, it's it's opposite Venus. It's the opposite of Venus, and Venus is who rules Libra. So it's like this counteracting energies that we have at play. You have Mars, which likes to go for it and likes to get stuff done and likes to have these ideas planned and go for the ideas planned. And then you have it moving into Libra, and Libra is all about, wait, how can we become more aware of both sides? How can we weigh the scale? How can we determine which side to even go? And here's Mars being like, let's go. And here's Libra being like, I don't know where I want to go yet, because I don't know how I feel about it yet, because I don't know what my relationship is to this situation. I don't know what my relationship is with myself. I don't know what my relationship is with the rest of the world. You know, it can get really existential and it can get really big. And putting this Mars in Libra right opposite Saturn and Neptune in Aries is really bringing about these existential questions of, what do I feel my responsibility is in this earth? What do I feel my spirit has come here to do? What do I feel like my purpose is? And I feel like naturally with this shift will come more confusion. How do you think we can face this confusion without getting lost in the sauce?
That's a beautiful reflection. How can you face that confusion without getting lost in the sauce? That is the evolutionary journey. That is the evolutionary um, process and initiation. When we talk about Mars, there is initiation. And we are being now initiated into Libra's mystery school. And Mars in Libra is actually exiled. He's not a strong Mars because Mars rules Aries, and he's now in an opposite sign that he's in the opposite sign of Aries. So this isn't going to be a happy Mars. This is going to be a more rebellious kind of Mars. It's
I
gonna
can
be a
like hear Mars brooding.
I know, because like, why am I supposed to be thinking about compromise when all I want to do is what I want to do? I want to do things my way. I want to do things that are more aligned with my side of things. So now why do I have to think about other people? So these are the internal voices and struggles of this Mars. And yes, we're gonna have that kite pattern, and a kite pattern is it's a sacred geometry. It's one of those fated patterns that we see in a chart where we literally see a kite. And a kite is made up of an opposition. In this case, the opposition is between Mars, Neptune, and Saturn, as you said. So the apex of this kite is that Saturn and Neptune that is also being sextiled by Pluto on the one hand, and then Uranus on the other hand. So we have that sextile of Pluto and Uranus to this.
What's a sextile?
So a sextile is a 60-degree angle. It's a supportive aspect. It's also a dynamic aspect because it blends both of these energies together and it actually propels us into action. It's an opportunity where we're being supported to take action. So Pluto in Aquarius, there's a lot of information. That's a lot of frequency, coherence. We get to know tribe that actually supports us in creating that new 0-degree omega energy. We have all of these planets in the first degrees of their signs. So it's just, I don't even have words for how potent omega alpha energy this is. And kite is also a pattern that has to do with fate. Like, no matter if we choose consciously to participate in this sacred friction or not, it's going to happen. So knowing that it's going to happen anyway, why not move with the opportunity to transform? And when I say transform, it's in this icky liminal feeling where we know that growth feels really awkward at first because it's in this sacred tension. We have that opposition, right, between Mars and Neptune and Saturn. It's an invitation to break up, break away, to sever self-constriction. Like, where, remember my invitation the first week, like just write it down. Like, where have we been fragmented, but because we enrolled in the misunderstanding that is actually not our truth anymore. So now we're here in the second week, we can start breaking up and breaking away from those misunderstandings because we are hopefully supporting ourselves by giving ourselves more evidence that we have the capacity, we have the capability, we have the strength, we have the fervor, we have the will, we have the drive, we have the audacity and the self-agency to actually move the needle one, like even just a degree closer to the new truth and the new values that we want to stand up for. And these are the words that I've been so careful using. And I think I say this all the time, and I don't think I can tire saying this. I would like to keep inviting you to reframe fighting for to standing up for. And like even just the energetic expression of those two words. How might you feel in the body? How that is actually more um balanced, harmonious, compromising. Because when I say I'm fighting for this because I believe this to be true, oppositions actually remind us that in the end, there is nothing to defend because all of these truths can have space here. So when we're actually defending and we're fighting for something, it's that rubber band, that game, like the two sides pulling ropes. What is that? The tug of war. Duh. Words. It's the tug of war that's actually causing a lot of pain and a lot of friction. And this pain is delusion. I think Neptune and Aries is teaching us that how we grip, because we're fighting so much for something, for a truth that we so, an ideal, a vision that we believe so fervently. The delusion is that this vision is the only vision and it's worth fighting for. Of course, it's more nuanced than that. So just inviting you to please, how might we, instead of fighting for or defending for a truth, how might we say we're standing up for it? Like, what is, do you feel an energetic shift in your body? Because this week teaches us that freedom doesn't mean control. It actually means permission. And where and how are we trying to control and manipulate things so that the outcome matches our comfort level? And how might we give everything else permission to just be, and use that as information to know which side of the spectrum we actually want to stand on? Does that make sense? Because we're being stretched here, and hopefully that stretch doesn't mean we snap, because we're being asked to soften where it hurts more, so that that's actually where we can grow new seeds. And it's when the pressure builds, please pause. This is a cliche. Reaction, um, responsiveness instead of reaction. How might you give yourself tiny doses of expansion, like one boundary, one truth, one moment of breath at a time, so that you can just honor the pace of where your nervous system is, even though everything outside is just tense and it's chaotic, it's confusing. What if we're meant to be part of the sauce because we're creating a new flavor? And it's okay to feel lost. It's okay to feel confused. We are in the 0 degrees of Libra, and Libra wants us to have all the information possible so that we can make an informed choice. So let's sit in this soup, but have that one boundary, one truth every single day, like even just small doses. Um, that's what's coming up for me this week. I hope I answered your question about the kite without going so technical.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was very informative. And I think for people that are like, okay, I'm feeling so heavy, that's a lot.
Mm,
I don't know how to use that energy. Let me ground it for you in something very simple. If you want to do something on this day or through this week, hang out with friends that feel like soul family.
beautiful.
I mean, Leo, our creativity, our heart, our the inner child within us. Opposite Aquarius, which is tribe, which is, our uniqueness, sharing our uniqueness, building tribe from that. Like, hang out with people who you actually feel like get you and create things together. I think that's a great thing to do. My friend Andrea is hosting a sketch breakfast on the 8th of August. I think that's such a fun idea. It's just like come together at a cafe, everyone order food and everyone just sketch together or like talk about whatever you want to talk about. And when she was sharing this idea with me, I was like, whoa, you're so in tune with the astrology because that's exactly Leo Aquarius energy. If you're feeling like everything is too much, come back to friends that feel like home. Come back to friends that remind you of your inner child. And if you don't have those friends, spend time with yourself, like do an artist date. Take yourself out for ice cream, take yourself to a park, go for a walk. I don't know if there are any lakes here, but if you want to go to a lake, go to a lake, just find ways to activate the inner child within you that remembers that there is still wonder in the world. It's easy to get lost. it's easy to feel like we're adults and there are all these things we have to feel and get done and etc etc etc. It never ends. It never ever ends. But this is a great weekend, I think, to just remember, hey, there is still beauty, there is still creativity. I still have my heart. And at the end of the day, when I have a beating heart, like, wow, that's a miracle. I've been thinking a lot about life and death. Um, these last couple of days, I just found out that someone I knew from school, elementary and high school, um, his mom passed away through cancer. And but she's a doctor, and even through her last days she was like helping people online. And it just made me kind of, it humbles you when you hear about people dying. It's just so humbling, because then it's like, wait, you're here and then all of a sudden you're not here. And then it brings me back to thinking about my dad, how he was so here and now he's so not here. Like, yes, of course he's here, but like not here. um and I think when you just zoom out and just think about it like that, you're alive, and you have the gift of being alive. And you can choose what you want to put into your life. You can choose what you want to put into your mind. You can choose what you want to fill your days with. You can choose to go on social media. You can choose not to go on social media. You can choose to completely disconnect from the world, and you can choose to sit on a park every day, like sit on a park bench every day. You can choose to quit your job. You can choose to stay in your job. You like choice. I think at the end of the day, this Mars in moving into Libra reminds us that we have the power of choice. And often we forget about this great, great, great power, the biggest gift probably that we have as human beings. And a lot of times we give up our gift of choice for the sake of people pleasing, a Libra downside, right? What are they going to say if I do this? How are they going to feel about it? But in that process, we puncture the relationship that we have with ourselves because we already have made a damn choice. But here we are still thinking about, like, what are they going to say about it? What are they going to do about it? Wait, maybe I should see what they're doing and then I should do that. And I think that's how we get more lost in the sauce. That's how we don't even end up in the sauce. That's how we end up in a whirlpool. Because then you're not even basing things on your own value system. You're not even basing things on your own heart. You're basing things on other people. And the last thing that we can control is other people, because everyone has their own damn thoughts. So, something that wanted to come through with Mars moving into Libra. Okay, let's move into the next week. That's the week of the 11th. Mercury stations direct at 4 degrees, 14 minutes of Leo. Wow. We've moved like all the way back in Leo. It's almost like we're at the beginning degrees again. I actually kind of, eh, I don't know if I want to say that. I was going to say, I actually kind of like this energy because it's going to be in a loose trine with Neptune and Saturn. That is harmonious energy. That is harmonious fire energy. And the next day we have what Thea was alluding to. We have Venus conjunct Jupiter, Venus right beside Jupiter at the same degree, 14 degrees and 3 minutes of Cancer. And that is beautifully abundant. I will let you share more about it. Um, and then on the 17th, we have Venus trine the North Node. So you'll notice I don't have a lot of oppositions. I don't have a lot of squares. I don't have a lot of trines or sextiles because we try not to overwhelm you with all of these terms and all of this information. In these recordings, we try to just get to the main points of the biggest shifts that are happening through the month. But I did want to bring in this North Node trine because um, I feel like, and I know you feel like too, when we have aspects with the nodes, these are like life points. Like these are big change points. These are quantum leap opportunities. So I wanted to bring that in. And before I pass it to you to talk about what this week means, let's quickly brush into what is everyone talking about the Lionsgate portal? What does that mean? Is it really that important? Give us like a 5-line debrief.
So this is a new age thing, the Lionsgate portal. And it's actually not on 8/8. It is for Egypt. And it's about when the star Sirius rises in the morning sky enough that people actually see it at dawn. And Sirius is a big, important star for the Egyptians because its rising means that the Nile will start flooding, and the Nile brings water, and water brings life. And the ancient Egyptians really tracked when Sirius rises because they had to make sure that um, things are in place so that when the Nile floods and water comes in, they're prepared to catch the water instead of being drowned in them. And with that analogy, I think it's also very beautiful as this benefic conjunction. When I say benefic, Jupiter is the greater benefic and Venus is the lesser benefic. I don't want to say lesser, I'm sorry. Venus is the nocturnal benefic. So they're both benefics. These are the brightest stars, aside from Sirius, that we see in our sky. And when they're together in a water sign and they're trining a water node. This is a lot of water. This is a lot of flooding. This is a lot of emotions. An invitation to actually make preparations so that we learn how to surf the wave instead of drowning in them. So that's Lionsgate, and it usually happens for Egypt on the 8th of August. For other parts of the world, we have different times for when Sirius heliacally rises. And when I say heliacally rises, it just means that we can actually visibly see it before the sun rises in the horizon. It happened last week for us in the Philippines. So if you are believing that 8/8 is the Lion's Gate, we have passed it for where we are in the world. Um, Not to say that you shouldn't believe it. The energies are there. It's really potent. It's a potent portal for quantum leaps and quantum changes and adjustments. But I would also like to invite you that every day and every moment is a portal and a potent time to choose transformation. We can get magnificent support from these cosmic bodies when we work in alignment with them, but these cosmic forces don't compel us to practice or do certain things, right? They impel us, they invite us to attune and align with them. So those are just my 2 cents on the Lion's Gate. Of
Yeah.
course, from an astronomical perspective too.
Yeah, and I think it's just constantly said because maybe once upon a time maybe once upon a time the Lionsgate was on 8/8 and now everybody thinks that the
It still
Lionsgate
is.
is
It's
always on 8/8,
it usually still is for Egypt.
but we're not in Egypt.
Exactly. And again, from my whole soliloquy on the Fertile Crescent, which is that part, right? Gaza, Palestine,
Yeah.
Egypt, Israel, where the actual red zones are happening now was where the first ancient civilization was, at least history, but as far as his story is concerned. That's the part of the world. So if we wanna keep riding on the Lionsgate 8/8 trend or belief or practice, I mean, God, by all means, if it works for you, amazing.
Yeah.
But um, you're a portal, you are a gate,
Yeah.
you have chakras, you have energetic points, nadis that can open and close. Your breath is a portal, your mind is a portal. Um, Nature when it's just yeah.
I feel like we can go so deep here because I'm just thinking about the numerology of 8/8, and of course
Mm,
that is magic, right? When you think about eight, you turn it on its side, it's infinity. Um, probably a day of infinite possibilities, but also who created these numbers other than humans. So
And also who created the calendar system.
exactly. So I love how you said every day is a possibility. Maybe just because we see it, maybe just because we see the calendar and it says 8-8, and we're like, "Ooh, great day to do whatever because it's worked for you in the past. Go for it," like they said. But I think it's always beautiful to know the meaning behind why we're doing
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So now that you know the meaning, they have shared with us the meaning. If you still want to go for it, go for it. If you want to feel like you're in Egypt, go for it. If you want to just use the numerology of the day, go for it. I'm also thinking about um, the tarot card for 8, which is strength, which is
Strength.
responsible for Leo, like it's Leo's correspondence. So, like, great day to tap into your power. Also, the fact that it's the day right before the full moon, it's the day in between Mars moving into Libra and the full moon. So, it is a magical day. It just
Mm-hmm.
maybe is not Lionsgate in the Philippines or in America,
Mm-hmm.
but it still is a magical day. I mean, it's a magical month. Every month is magical if we want to make it magical.
Yeah.
So moving into this next week, which I took us away from. Mercury stationing direct in Leo. Fog is still going to be there. It doesn't mean that just because Mercury has stationed direct, fog is lifted. Mercury is still going to be in shadow, which means it's still going to be traveling through degrees that it has retrograded through. Maybe as it moves forward, we have a bit more clarity about the story, Mercury, or about how to express, or about how to communicate. Um, but when are we out of shadow? Do you know?
Ooh. Well, let me check for you.
Okay, so as you're checking that, let's talk a little bit about Venus conjunct Jupiter. So Venus is again values, relationship, worthiness, beauty, um, oh, just like sensuality, right? Meeting Jupiter, which is trust, faith, beliefs, uh, abundance, blessings. Bringing these two together in Cancer, you were saying there's a lot of water, there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of flooding. However, water is also love, water is also creativity. So I like how you said, like, set yourself up, because you can set yourself up with like creative outlets for that day. You can intentionally make that a creative day for yourself so that there is somewhere for your emotions to flow, so that there is no flooding. I think there's usually internal flooding when we are blocking ourselves from expressing. And maybe if we allow this like space to express, then we're not really flooding internally. God knows there's already enough flooding externally. That's something we didn't talk about at the beginning of this episode. Um, we talked about the other side of the world, but there's a lot going on in this side of the world as well.
A lot of
There's a
water.
lot,
Yeah.
there's a lot of water, and it's just interesting to think of how on that side there's a lot of fire, on this side there's a lot of water, um, and everywhere in the world, is I think dealing with a different element that's a bit overwhelming. That's become like a bit much because it's the only way that we humans will finally listen.
Mm.
So I think it's also interesting to tap into that energy. Like, okay, here in the Philippines, we're dealing with a lot of water. So it's so interesting to tap into the water energy within ourselves, tap into the emotions within ourselves, tap into, I mean, this is a hella compassionate country.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that a big issue that we always have is flooding.
Water. Yeah.
Yeah. So tap into, where are you? Maybe it's a lot of air. I am seeing like tsunami alerts for Hawaii. That's a lot of water as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, just tap into that element. And if you don't know how to tap into that element, just welcome it into your days, welcome it into your life, see what shows up. Um, and then with this Venus trine North Node, this feels very opportunistic value wise. Also, I want to go back to the 12th really quick and talk about how this is a great day to align our values with our beliefs,
Mm.
and to get more intentional. because I think that just carries over to the Venus trine North Node. When does shadow end?
25th of August.
Okay, so a couple weeks after it stations direct. So just keep your eyes open for what comes up in your life
Mhm.
as Mercury is still in shadow. What do you have to say about this week?
Ooh. um, I would still invite you guys to let grace hold what grit can solve, because I mean, we still have that crazy Mars that's breaking up and opening up and shaking up a lot of things. I mean, it's in a trine to Uranus, so I see how it's playing out through tsunamis, through earthquakes, through destabilizing events, and with this benefic conjunction, it's really a lot of grace and allowing yourself to be held by softness instead of grit and force. And I feel like it's very loud for me with that trine to the North Node, because we're healing um an age where fire, grit, and will dominated um grace, softness, and compassion. And the wheel of life is turning, and we're learning how to make space for both, where there's grit, but there's also grace, there's softness as strength, but there's also will. So feelings may swell, not to drown you, but to help you alchemize. So pause if you can instead of push. I love how you said to connect to your element. And if there's an element that is unknown to you, this is an opportunity for you to know that element better. And please just attune to nature, because nature is such an amazing and benevolent teacher. If you can hold a quiet ritual with water this week, even just, imagining yourself as you take a bath, you're imagining yourself being bathed and cleansed from all that old stories that you've unearthed, and just cleaning and clearing your temple. If it feels like you want to cry, then allow yourself to cry, feel freely without judgment or shame, but just really holding your inner child. We were talking about inner child, a lot of inner child. um yeah, that's it feels like a lot of karmic release. I've been talking about karmic releasing for the past few weeks, but it really is a time for us to release the old ways of fire, and the opposite of fire is water. So I feel like energetically that's why. And also I think when we began this in January, we did say that this year is fire and water. Like we're gonna see a lot of environmental climate themes around fire and water. So we're learning how to balance and make space for both.
Doesn't mean that it's light. It just means that
No.
we are expanding our ability to hold.
Yeah. And when you say hold, I like hold. So how are we actually being held by the storm
Hmm.
instead of holding ourselves through the storm?
Yeah.
Like
I
how
mean, the storm is so much bigger than one human. So I love that. Instead of us being like, how can I control this giant thing? It's like,
yeah.
okay, how can I let this giant thing allow me to flow with it? Something really random, not random for me because I'm pregnant, but something that I've been hearing a lot about. Of course, I've been studying about how I want to give birth, how I want to bring my baby Earth side, and one of the biggest things that I've been hearing about contractions is you got to flow with it. Like the only way is that you got to flow with it. You can't fight it. You can't try to go against it. You can't feel like, I don't want to feel this. You gotta let it take you. And that just came into my mind as you said, how can you let the storm hold you? Because it's uncomfortable, it's painful, it's the most painful thing you've ever felt in your life. I don't know yet because I've not experienced it yet, but that's what I've heard. But it's like, how can we let even the most painful things carry us through? Because everything is a boat.
Mhm.
If we allow it to be a boat, it's a boat. If we allow it to be an iceberg, it's an iceberg. Again, we're back to the story that we're telling ourselves. Okay, let's move into the next week. Pretty quiet-ish week. I don't know about the squares and oppositions, don't hold me to that. But on the 23rd, which is at the end of that week, on Saturday, we have the sun moving into Virgo, and we have the new moon in Virgo joining all of these other planets that are in their beginning degrees, because the new moon is happening in at 0 degrees 22 minutes. That's really early in Virgo at 2:06 p.m. Philippine time. So this would be a great week. If you've been working with water and I've been working with fire, this is a great week to anchor into Earth. What does Earth really mean? How do you spend time with Earth? How does nature feel to you? When someone says nature, what are the scenes that come to your mind? I find that so interesting because, like, for me, when someone says nature, I immediately think of like a forest. But maybe that's not the case for everyone. Maybe someone says nature and you think about a beach. Maybe someone says nature and you think about a lake. I don't know why lakes keep coming into my consciousness today. But like, think about what is nature to you, and also what is your nature? What is your deepest nature? What is truest to you? What is most real for you? What is the part of you that shows up every single day? Because Virgo is, it rules routines, it rules health, it rules daily rituals and daily habits. And maybe while the sun is in Leo, we're like playing and we're exploring and we're getting creative and we're trying to expand whatever we're holding. Once Virgo comes in, it's more like we're a vessel. Like
Mhm.
we shift into a vessel, and how can we be that vessel that doesn't break no matter
Mhm.
what comes our way, because we're human. I mean,
Mhm.
again, something like contractions, they can't break us, but you have to expand the vessel to be able to hold it. So I
Mhm.
think the whole Virgo season will be a lesson on how to vessel, how to vessel.
Indeed. Indeed.
And then the next day we have Sun square Uranus. I wanted to bring that one in because it feels pretty big, and it's happening again at the very, very early degree. So these are still energies that we're learning to work with. I think a big word that comes in with Virgo and that also comes in with the square is discernment. Um, Virgo is all about discernment. Gemini is all about dualities, but also all about curiosity. So instead of like dipping so deep into the polarities, to the dualities, I want to say, how can we dip deeper into curiosity and be like,
Mm.
okay, this is what the story is looking like, but what if it actually wasn't the actual story? Like, I don't know. I think this is a great week to just throw what ifs to ourselves and to our minds, and to um, literally, physically write out new stories with Virgo. Might also be, I think the 12th also is a great time to revisit our money story, don't you think?
Yeah, I think this whole August, because of all that Venus activation, I mean, it's gonna meet with it opens with squares, it's meeting with Jupiter, and it's gonna be dancing with Pluto soon enough when it moves.
All money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. And also Chiron retrograding in Aries, that's a lot of how we've attached our identities into old stories' worth and how might we take our power back. Chiron is stationing retrograde with Eris there. So like they're this close and they've been kissing and they've just been triggering each other. I think they're gonna be there all year. And God, there's so much to say about this Virgo new moon. Where do I even begin? Really just take a breath. This, I feel like, and I may be biased because I am a practicing rose priestess. I may be biased to this new moon, that this new moon at 0 degrees of this temple keeper sign might just be the most epically powerful, potent new moon, in a sense that, okay, let me just give you context. If you've heard of the fixed stars, like fixed stars used to be in the fixed signs Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, and um, Taurus. And that fixed sign used to hold a fixed cross where fixed stars, um, Aldebaran, Fomalhaut, Regulus, that's the sign of Leo. I'm missing one star. Anyway, so these fixed stars represent the wheel of fortune, if I'm not mistaken, in the tarot. Um, they also represent archangel energies. What I want to bring your attention to is the fixed star Regulus that represents royalty, kingship, the patriarchy, leaders, world leaders. For the past thousands of years, it has been in Leo. But since to the 2000s, since the year 2000s, it shifted into Virgo. And all these fixed stars are now in mutable constellations. And mutable constellations represent change and shifts and adaptability. And this 0 degree of Virgo is particularly important because we are shifting power as if we need more signs and patterns to show us that the powers are really shifting from the masculine energetics to the feminine energetics. Like we were talking about grace as power, vulnerability as strength, all these things. This is another marker. This new moon at 0 degrees of Virgo, when all of these planets are also in the 0, 1, 2, 3 degrees of their sign. This is sacred refinement. This is alchemy. This is sacred temple keeping. And it's reminding us to come back to our bodies, to refine, to discern, to distill, to go back to our daily habits, to our routines, to how we're actually anchoring our divinity in our humanity. How are we using all the information that we're receiving from all the shifts that are happening so that we might continuously refine how we hold space for ourselves? Because we're also refining how we're holding space for the changing world. So I guess my invitation for this week is, how might you refine? You know, August is also sacred harvest season because this is Lugnasa, meaning it's the sacred Sabbath where we're harvesting what we sowed the past 6 months and, you know, past 8 months. And now, no, 6 months. So that we reach this not, we're not in the mid-year anymore. We're not in the next half of the year yet. How might we reflect? How might we journal? How might we write about what are we actually harvesting to keep? And what are we harvesting to compost and let go? And obviously, there's a lot of composting, there's a lot of releasing, there's a lot of letting go because the South Node is in Virgo. And there's a lot of performance, there's a lot of martyrdom, there's a lot of forgetting how to presence what is needed moment to moment, that we're being taught how to figure out, because we we figure things out as we move. We can't figure things out of control. And this is how all these fixed signs are moving into mutable signs are teaching us. We just really can't control anything. And the more we try to control and manipulate things, the more we're being asked to shed more and trust more and just be present more. So I feel like the invitation is to be reminded that the sacred isn't actually somewhere else. The sacred isn't outside of you. And this is a big theme that we're going to keep seeing this whole year. How much are we outsourcing? Like whether that's value, whether that's safety, whether like whatever it is, how much of it out are we actually outsourcing than insourcing from ourselves? Because this is this is the moment in time where we being reminded what sacred is and what it isn't, and how much of what's sacred is actually again outsourced. How much do we believe that it's outside of us? And more than more than a choice of what to keep, I think I said this already, it's how might we take daring and bold actions to actually let go instead of um acquiring or hoarding or keeping them in. There's a lot of refinement that is being asked of us to do.
I think that daring and bold actually leads us really well into the next week, because the next week or the last week of August, we have on the 26th, we have Venus moving into Leo.
Yeah.
And then on the 27th, we have Venus in Leo opposite Pluto in Aquarius. Um, and are you going further?
No, please go ahead.
Okay, that's all I have listed. I think I wanted to stop with the opposition just because I feel like more would be too much. But if you have more, let me know. But yeah, I love that you brought in this daring and bold action, because I think that's what will become louder as Venus moves into Leo. This week we are out of shadow officially, and so it's a great time to again come back to our value system. Look at what does it look like now? How has it changed since the beginning of the month? Um, how have these fragmented pieces started to maybe come together in ways that you wouldn't imagine? I'm just like seeing a puzzle where it's been like completely broken apart. Like what I'm actually seeing is a photo that's been cut up in different ways. And then now at the end of the month, we're putting different parts of the picture in different parts that they don't necessarily belong in, but they have the cuts to go there. And so it's like it may not look like what we imagined it to look like. It may not look like what it looked like in the beginning. It looks different, but it's still functional. And it's functional for us. And that's what matters most. Because if it's not functional for us, again, like what kind of world are we living in? If we're living in a world where it's functional for everyone else, but not for us, I don't think we're going to be very helpful human beings at that point. So I feel like this is a great week to play with, to keep actually entertaining our inner child, to see what wants to come up, and to see how we can ground and heal um, things that have been coming up again and again, especially when they're showing up in our health, especially when they're showing up in our bodies, especially when they're disrupting our routines. I think because our inner children are such that like all they need is some attention, and until they get attention they're going to keep kind of being like, hey, do you hear me? Hey, do you hear me? Hey, hello, I'm here. Hey, do you hear me? And so with this Virgo, I feel like it's a great time to be like, hey, I'm here in my body with you. I can hear you. Let's work this out. Let's talk about it. Let's release it. Maybe we don't want to release it. Let's integrate it. Virgo, right? Let's turn it into something that's actually functional. Let's use it to serve other people. Let's use it to serve ourselves. Let's use it to help. Rather than just allowing this voice to constantly be nagging and nagging and nagging. Because I think enough of the world is nagging. Um, we got to do the work with ourselves. And until we do the work with ourselves, we're going to add to the nagging of the world. And then Venus opposite Pluto. What do you feel about that?
Um, this actually feels like um it feels like a reckoning, but I don't wanna add because reckoning feels heavy, but I don't want to sugarcoat it either because wherever Pluto is and whatever is triggering, that can really feel heavy. But I'd like to remind us that's a blessed Venus. And I say blessed because it's coming off from that conjunction from Jupiter. So as we close August, let's remember that August is being opened with that Venus in a creative tension with um, Saturn and Neptune, anyway. And if we can use that opening breath of the month with Venus to reorganize where we stand with our values, our emotional safety, and define those things, right? Mercury, Cazimi, and then stationing direct. How might we define and refine those things for us? What does emotional safety, emotional intelligence, emotional maturity mean for you? What does home mean for you? What are your values? What are your truths? What are your stories that are separate from what the world hold you to believe and be and act and actually hold to be valuable? What is worth for you? And how might you decouple your inherent worth from the value that you offer others, from the value that you can offer yourselves? Because who you are, you're inherently worthy, and that doesn't change. That can just transform. And when that transforms, that can transform into the values that you offer. I hope that makes sense. Um, because we're ending the month with Venus in that opposition with Pluto. And this whole initiation and underworld descent of Pluto, I feel like is also a reminder that hey, we're stepping into the darker half of the year now. And it's time for us to get ready to we talk a lot about composting and alchemy. So Venus opposing Pluto is showing us where how much we've given our power away, how much of all these things around worth and values and relationships have we projected onto others. And it can come up as fear. Hopefully you get to dissect your fear and hold space for your fear so that your fear stops controlling you. We talked about this in August too, in July too, and about holding space for our inner child when they're throwing tantrums. And we have a lot of support. I see a lot of sextiles and trines and not a lot of oppositions aside from that Venus and Pluto opposition. So trust that we are super supported and guided. And it may not feel like support because so many things are rising to be met with a deeper level of compassion and kindness. I mean, I'm seeing a trine with that Mercury that just out of shadow and Chiron and Eris. So we can still see a lot of disruptive, um, discordant themes, whether in our personal relationships or in our families or in our global family. So, how might we again reframe this in such a way that all this is happening so that our souls can evolve and grow? And I like this, I really like this analogy and representation of Virgo where um, it's not really about perfectionism or OCD. It's just that because it wants things intentional and it wants things sacred, that it is within the chaos that it is able to refine and organize such things. Am I making sense? So how might we stretch ourselves within the chaos and just use what's happening outside of us as grist for the mill, right? If there's no grist, there's nothing to mill. If there's no chaff, there's nothing to separate from the wheat. These are all Virgoan analogies, but not to shy away from chaos and the fear that's making itself known to you, the wounds and triggers that are making themselves known to you. Because again, all these omega and alpha energies are asking us to use our creativity, use our intuition, use our sensitivity and compassion and empathy in our heart to move us into a new frequency. And this isn't something any kind of technology will give us information to move into. This is something that we're going to discover on our own when we are courageous, bold, and willing enough to dive into shadow territory so that we can emerge as bearers of a different kind of light, a light that doesn't bypass darkness or shadow, but the kind of light that actually just burns brighter because of the darkness and the shadow. I think I want to end there.
Okay, that was a lot. So I don't think I'm going to add much. I just want to remind us that Leo is the sign of the leader. And I think this is a great time to start leading ourselves again before trying to lead anyone else. I think it's a great time to put in new ideas, new thoughts, new creative ventures, whatever feels good, but just new. This is a time of new. I don't think we should be afraid of new, especially with this Saturn and Neptune trining, Venus moving into Leo. It can look scary because it's new and unknown, and we as humans don't like the unknown. But humor me and humor yourself and just see what happens when you dip into new. And it might feel like shit, and you might be like, ugh, I don't like this new. I'm going to go back to what I was doing. Fine, but at least you tried the new. I think that's the thing about this month and this end of the month. It's like you gotta do something different. And if it sucks, go back to how you were doing it if that's what you want, or create a different way. I mean, there is no limit to how many different things, different ways, different lives we can create while we're living this one life.
Mm.
Um, so that brings me to my 3 words for August, which are infinite, um, creative, and opportunities. What are your three
Mm.
words?
Um, refine, remember. It's still a big theme. I mean, it was a word for me in July, but I'm gonna move it forward to August. Refine, remember, and um, what is the word? Grace. There's so many statements in my head, but I feel like just grace.
Yeah.
Refine, remember, and grace.
Okay, I mean, with that, we are done with August. I think this is a longer one as compared to the last few months. I had a lot to share in the beginning of this one, and I think August, as I was sharing with Thea before we clicked record, feels like a bit lighter for me
Mm.
than July. And it feels like it might be lighter than September, just because September we are entering eclipse season. So take this month and allow it to lead you and allow yourself to lead it. And yeah, ride the waves. I think
Mm.
this is a great, great month to ride the waves and see how high your flame can go and see how far you can chase your passions and see how much you can rekindle with your inner child, with your inner teen, with your inner younger self, because the more we're meeting ourselves, the more we're able to meet other people where they are without expectations of wanting them to be anywhere other than where they are. And I mean, it's just a mirror, right? The more we do that for other people, the more we do it for ourselves. So I think this is just a great month to come back to our hearts, ourselves, and what actually truly, truly matters at the end of the day, which is that we're alive, we have breath, we have the power of choice. And other than that, I mean, what else is there to say about life? We are born, we get to choose how we live our lives, and then we die. And that sounded a bit morbid. Which
Uh,
which is a note that it's time to end this episode. Thank you all for being here.
well, thank you again for having me. Oh gosh.
Uh, thank you. We will see you for September. Thea, thank you so much for always being game to do this with me. And if you guys have any questions, I mean, reach out. Thea's here. I'm here. We're happy, so happy to talk astrology clearly. So yeah, if you're curious, let us know. We're happy to guide you deeper. All right. Thank you all for being here, and we will catch you next month. Bye.